Hi, folks. Welcome back to the PagerDuty Twitch channel. I'm Mandy Walls, DevOps advocate at PagerDuty. With me today is Ram from Apono. We're super excited to have them on board. I first learned about their product last year at what was DevOps Days Raleigh, I think we
Right,
talked.
right. Yeah.
So we've been anxiously awaiting for them to integrate with PagerDuty so we could show them to you. So Ram, welcome to the channel. Excited to see what you've got going on now.
Yeah. No, I'm really excited to be here. I'm Ron, the co-founder at Apono, where we try to make, DevOps life easier, empowering engineers to be able to do the work they need to do, automating permission management. And again, really excited to be here and share with everyone some of the Apono's neat, cool feature in combination with PagerDuty.
Awesome. So tell us about the product itself. What's it do, and like why are you headed in this direction?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So yeah, kind of the high level look at this, Upon is a permission management automation platform providing just-in-time access to different cloud resources, services at a very granular level, Kubernetes, again, to the very granular level, databases and other critical R&D application, and helping turn manual provisioning and permission management to kind of an automated access flow that's based on dynamic context, such as on-call shifts, as I'll show in a second, and that's kind of where PagerDuty fits in all of this. Yeah,
So that'd be
I
great. Yeah.
no, sorry, yeah, definitely. I thought we could actually jump in pretty soon to like a demo
Yeah,
and
let's do
kind
it.
of, yeah. So I think you guys are all familiar with PagerDuty's on-call shift management. Yeah. And the use case in which people incidents occur, unfortunately, in the middle of the night sometimes, and on call automatically receive and then receiving that event of something happening, and then there's the whole workflow of them being able to kind of troubleshoot that, and
Yeah.
and a lot of that is kind of based on them needing the permissions to be able to do what they need to do essentially, and receiving just the right amount of permissions on base of that incident and have that fully logged. And that's kind of the combination of where we fit in the process. And in that sense, reducing the mean time to resolve, removing the manual provisioning task of needing to grant the relevant permissions, maybe even needing to wake the relevant SRE up to do their part, which is sometimes just give the relevant permissions to the developer that's on call. Reducing my mistakes, like not making new incidents by only getting the relevant permissions that are relevant to support, rather than an admin to everything when you're
Yeah.
on call. And at the same time being compliant, so like providing the full audit of what happened and the full activity of, and that's kind of the basic gist of the combination. And want to touch on that right before we jump into like a
Yeah.
demo.
That's awesome. That's super important. Like we talk about that too. Like the last thing you want to be doing if you're up at 3 o'clock in the morning is like trying to get to the help desk or like escalate privileges or like get access to something that you don't normally have access to so you can troubleshoot or fix something that's down for your users. So these solutions are an amazing improvement over the chaos that might ensue otherwise. So great. Awesome. Well, let's get a look at it. What do you want to show us today?
So I think we can jump start, right to the kind of how it looks from the end user side. So, say I'm like an engineer that's on call, and I want to get permissions to be able to, I had an incident maybe that I learned of from PagerDuty, and now I want to get permissions to be able to solve it. And maybe let's just say that incident is something that requires me to gain access within a Kubernetes environment. All I need to do is go in here to Slack or Teams if you're one of those organizations, or directly from the CLI, and hit new request over here to be able to kind of choose the specific permissions you need. There's actually a bunch of different permissions that I'm able to request over here that we have connected. In this case, I need permissions to the specific Kubernetes production cluster, and specifically to the namespace that the incident occurred on, where I need permissions to this namespace. And for now, the relevant permissions I need are just view and vpod to kind of understand, really kind of get that deep view of what's going on inside. In this case, I'm supporting an incident, supporting. And once I hit submit over here, that request was submitted for approval. In this case, it might be submitted by the DoD or the developer on duty. And once I hit approve over here, Apono goes in and grants the permissions. I'm also the approver in this case because I'm the DoD,
Mm-hmm.
just for this demo use case. Usually it's not the same as the requester. And then, what happens now is that Apono went into the Kubernetes specific production cluster here, changed the permission of this specific namespace to give me the relevant permission that I needed to support, that incident. In this case, just a view at first. Maybe I'll ask for relevant permission right after. In this case, it was view, view pod, and view roles. And now I can, go in and just run to the command that I need directly in the same way that I, work today. As an engineer with and directly against that cluster. That makes sense.
Yeah. Super slick. But it's nice that it's so granular, right? So folks get kind of itchy about giving too many permissions. You've got nice and narrow there with the namespaces and specific role things that they can do, and have it real narrow there.
Yeah, I think what else I can share with you is kind of how it looks from the audit side, from the admin view. That'll be interesting for our viewers maybe as well. If I jump over here, we can actually see that specific request that just went through, and how you have that justification and how you can see the specific, in this case, specific namespace in the relevant cluster and the permissions that I received access to. In this case, I was my own approver, as you see here, and I received it for 3 hours. Of course, there's filter to this, and we can, kind of get reports over this, and this is a lot from investigation perspective and compliance purposes. It's very helpful. We can see kind of what allowed me to get those permissions if we jump over here to access flows, and I'll go in here and actually use this one. This is kind of the basic idea of Apono. It's kind of defining an access flow is actually a way for us as admins here, or DevOps or whoever the admin in your case would be, to define how, in which context our developers, in this case developers on call, will be able to receive the permissions they need. And here we have kind of basic access flows that allow developers on call receiving read-only permissions to production. I can go in deeper into this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. The dev on call part is going to be then dynamic, right? Based on your on-call status in some other system or PagerDuty.
That's a great question. Yeah. So the dev on call here is based on our PagerDuty integration, as you can see here. So we've got Apono integrated with PagerDuty, which is great because it's very easy to do and very easy to start working with PagerDuty and Apono together. And once we hit dev on call here, this is the relevant on call dynamic group from PagerDuty that we're defining that can request, and defines their requests. They can request the permissions directly from, as I said, Slack or CLI or Teams. And we can define what they can request access to. In this case, it's the Kubernetes specific namespaces. It could also be at a cluster level, and we can define it to be, just specific namespaces like this, or we can define it to be any of the namespaces in this case, and the relevant permissions that they're able to receive with this access flow that's, just read only in this case. And that's why I've chosen the view and view pods, view roles, and so on, and have that received automatically, meaning with no approver. And
okay. So in the little sample that you did at the beginning, you were actually a manual approver. So if folks would let as an approver, hey, someone requested this, but you can also do it automatically just because they're on call.
That is a great question. Yeah. So you can define that when they're on call and they're just looking for view permissions, that's something that you'd want them to receive automatically. That's right. It's not what I did in the demo on that side, on the end user side. And then when it's automatic, you still have that log and that audit of specifically what they got. So it's really helpful as well.
That is super helpful.
Yeah, and another use case might be that we want the cloud admin team to be the approval of some request. Maybe when it's not just view, maybe when it's like admin privileges. Even if you're on call when you're kind of requesting admin, maybe that requires someone from the cloud admin team. That's also something that we see a bunch of customer kind of wanting to use as well. And then another interesting use case actually might be that you want their manager to be the approver. So this is the manager that's synced up with your manager and the identity provider, whether it's Okta or Google Cloud or Google Workspace in this case, or Azure AD, Jump Cloud, or OneLogin, whatever identity provider your company uses. And then you can have that be the manager, it's the approval, and not just the cloud admins. I think this is another interesting use case for your PagerDuty integration that we see some customer using. I don't know if you've kind of heard of that idea. So like you can have the dev on call, or maybe the DevOps on call, be the approver of this request when they want admin, instead of just having as a group. So that's also kind of connected to the PagerDuty integration here.
Oh, that's super slick. Yeah. So now you've got an entire sort of auditable workflow that you've put together for these particular pieces that you want folks to be able to do when they're on call.
Oh yeah, we have something here that's based on the on-call as the approver and the on-call, group of developers as the requester that would allow them to receive. I think another cool thing that we can add is in the same access flow, we can add, another production resource, because maybe when I'm supporting an incident, I might need more than just, the specific access to the namespace, or in this case, we did, view permissions in the namespace or edit or so on. I might need, also access to the, I don't know, AWS RDS MySQL that we have, and maybe, specific database I might be able to get permissions to. And again, we can define it to be just read-only access in the case of this workflow, and rather read-write might require an approval, kind of like we did before. That might also be relevant.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's wild. And then you can set this up for like if you've got like multiple product teams across your organization, like each team can have a workflow based on the resources that they need access to.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't really know like what the team would need, and this is kind of set those like guardrails to define, and we're giving the ability to get that access, maybe even automatically in some cases, as we've seen some cases with an approver of, and so on and so forth, depending on the level of privileges as we've defined, what are the most critical resources in our organization. And that's also like a good start to how to get started with Apono, is like, define what's your most critical production resources that you want to start with. Maybe it's your databases, maybe it's your namespaces or Kubernetes cluster for that matter in production. And you want to kind of define the scope of who in what context will be able to receive what level of permissions and what might require approval, and have that dynamically kind of change based on what they need.
Yeah. How do you recommend folks get started? Like, it looks like you've got plugins and connectors for all kinds of resources and cloud providers and stuff like that. What's a good way for folks to kind of get going?
Yeah, so that's, again, a great question. So you go in here and it's like, this is our catalog page. As I just jumped over here, you can integrate, the most relevant. I think the good way to get started is kind of finding the most critical resources you'd want to start. And we see many customers starting with either like their databases over here, or, the different buckets on the cloud level. And then kind of integrating their method of communication. Could be either this or going directly from CLI, and then syncing up their users and groups to be able to create those access flows directly from the identity provider of their choice. And of course, not to forget their PagerDuty integration that they can, in which they'll be able to create an access flow based on their on-call shifts as well.
Yeah, excellent. So for folks who are implementing this kind of solution, do you see them, like, who ends up owning it from the customer side? Or is this something that you see folks in like a platform team managing, or on a dev team?
Again, that is a great question, because we see a combination. Usually it starts off with the people that are doing the manual provisioning work today and suffer from it the most. So it's either like the platform SREs or the DevOps, and kind of the combination of something under the infrastructure division. And then slowly, as you implement an Apono and Winner, you see that also IT people get a hold of this and like, yeah, actually we can also create, access flows as part of this. And maybe DevOps people don't, they don't want to manage permissions most of the times, then no one does. And now it's fully automated, and you can have them be on board as well. So we see a shift in the organization moving from the most DevOps people to also a combination of DevOps, SRE, and IT, and everyone has something they can relate to in this and automate a lot of their,
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that audit capability, that list of things that have been put through, is super important in a lot of organizations as well.
Yeah, that's definitely a big part and a big use case, because you see customers that they want to limit that. They want to say, we want to make sure no one has access to production, but then, as you're familiar with, from PagerDuty, there's incidents and there's occurrence in which you need to get some, you need to fix that bug, you need to do something that's support wise, and you need to get those permissions. And then when you do, you have to have that fully logged and fully audited, and make sure, they're only receiving what they need, and have that justification behind it for compliance and for customer security purposes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as do folks get notified then as their permissions are timing out? So if you give them like a limited time window, you can have this for an hour. Does it let them know so they can ask for it to be extended or anything like that?
Oh, of course, yeah. So it lets them know like half an hour before, and they can
Oh,
extend.
nice.
Yeah, and one other cool thing besides extending, they can like request an additional privileges, and it would
Mm.
be over the same session as well. So like I got view permissions to that pod, and now I need to edit, so I can request edit, and I continue working, and it's frictionless for me. So it's not like another user is being created or anything. It's actually my same identity provider user from Okta or whatever identity provider I use, that's being now granted more privileges for an additional amount of time that now I needed to.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's super slick. Like the capabilities here and like the ease of use across all of these different platforms is super nice for folks who have stuff all kinds of places, right? You don't know what you're going to need when you go into an incident and start poking around to try and figure out what's going on. So
Yeah, yeah. I like it's something that you see that companies are dying, between like giving just admin privileges to anything because incident need to be fixed as fast as possible,
yeah.
but then also suffering from the being afraid and just give admin to everything. That's probably scary, and this kind of puts them in the safest place in a way that's we're hitting both on productivity and we're getting the most secure and preventing mistakes and so on. So it's perfect for many organizations today.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody out there listening has any questions, we can take them in the chat. I'm going to post a couple links for folks. So to learn more, the Apono website is www.apono.io. And we have a sign up for folks if you would like to try it out. There's a trial for folks who are watching our stream today, and I'll post that in the chat as well. So you can get a look at what's going on with this and see how well it's going to fit in your environment. It looks like it's going to cover all kinds of things that people have sitting around in their ecosystem. So hopefully be very helpful for them there, especially the database stuff, because like nobody wants to deal with database permissions, and like you just have to remember how to spell the word privileges in MySQL, and that's bad enough. So the rest of it is just all mayhem. So that alone is super helpful right there. So.
That is true. Yeah, and anyone that signs up kind of with the link that Mandy will post, is getting that free trial and can play with the platform with all the different features and capabilities that we have. And yeah, and also feel free to get in touch, either myself or with Mandy, and we can set you up with, showing a personal demo, showing you kind of what the different capabilities are that are most relevant to you.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to hear from folks. You can also tweet at Apono. They're at Apono_official on Twitter, and get in touch with their folks there. We'd love to see their community grow and see more from them in the future. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Andy, and we'll
Yeah.
see you probably at the next DevOps Day event or QCon.
I hope so. I'll be at Demo Days, New York City next week, and then I'll be in Seattle in August. And fingers crossed, we'll all be at KubeCon, which will be in Chicago, right, this year. So yeah, Detroit was an adventure. Chicago will be an adventure as well. So looking forward to that.
Traveling plan for you. That's awesome.
Yeah, right? We're gonna go everywhere, so it's all good. So this has been great. Yeah, like we said, if you've got any questions, you want to check out the demo there, check out that account sign up and roll it into your environment, see how it works for yourself. If you're out there and you're going to try it out, we'd love to hear from you too, like how it works for you, how the PagerDuty integration is helping you out with that as well. So we love to hear more about how folks are being successful with all of our partners. So this has been great. So Ram, thank you for joining us today. And if anybody out there has any additional questions, there's some links in the chat, or you can get in touch with us. Is there anywhere else that you specifically have for folks to share feedback? Do you have a community page or anything like that?
Yeah, so I think it should be posted there as well. So we have a way for them to kind of ask us question and post any feedback that they have. Our community is still a closed community, but anyone that kind of signs up, we might allow them to join that community as well.
Awesome. Yeah, give that a look on Apono.io and check it out. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us, everyone, on this stream. If you'd like to be on the channel, if you've got other things you want to show off, let us know. We're community-team@PagerDuty.com. We love to hear about all of our partners and all the exciting things they're doing to make PagerDuty more efficient and help them deal with their incidents in a quicker way. And we're super excited to see these security solutions like Apono. So thanks again. We'll wish everybody an uneventful day.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you never miss a stream. Follow us at PD Community and PagerDuty on twitch.tv. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you'd like to be on our stream, email us at community-team@pagerduty.com so we can feature the cool things you're doing. And don't forget, check out all of our global events on our calendar at pagerduty.com/events.